Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast, bringing you the latest and greatest geeky news of the week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and with me, once I remove her stand-in photo from last week, is my co-host, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody!
Once again, never quite something fully correct with starting the show. So... yes, we are back again with another spooky cast. So, because it is still October, we still have all the cobwebs in the goopy guts going everywhere.
Yeah, those bats sound like mice skittering by, because I can't see the picture of it. So they just sound like mice skittering for me, and I'm like, okay, sure. Nope, that's a thing.
Yeah. So we do have a couple of items on the news for this week, and we got a couple topics for a deep dive, a little deep dive pizza there. So why don't we get right into it with the old quickfire news? All right, so the World of Warcraft Shadowlands Prepatch, or patch 9.0, launched this week on Tuesday. So what this did was, supposedly it does the zombie event. I have not seen it yet. But it does the level squish, so all level 120 characters got squished down to level 50. And sort of re-added a bunch of abilities that you will likely never use back to your class. As was the case for my main character, at least. So... I had to go through and add them like in macros and things like that. So that is live, so you can go back in right now, retune your characters, get them all prepped for Shadowlands, and hopefully go find some zombies to fight. Yeah. Courtney, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, so Soul, the Pixar film that was supposed to be coming out, is no longer going to be getting a theatrical release. Instead, it will be coming directly to Disney Plus on Christmas Day.
Yes.
Of this year.
One thing to know is that it will be free, or it just included in the regular subscription. It will not have that $35 access fee that Mulan had.
I was wondering if they were going to do the premium access for that or not.
They are
nice. Good, they learned.
Up next, so in a little bit of more Warcraft adjacent news. So Blue Microphones is releasing a special promotion of the Yeti X microphone that gets kind of a little Warcraft makeover. So it's got like some gold trim. It's got a little bit of like a bluish gray tint to it, like dark bluish gray tint to it. So it has like a themed casing. And it also includes software for voice modulation using samples from the game to make you sound like an orc, gnome, imp, murloc, the Lich King, and possibly more. So yeah, it's using some kind of software that's built into Logitech.
Okay.
That is going to retail for $199, so it's actually only like $30 more than the base price of the microphone later this month. Yeah, nice. It's actually not bad. And
Yeti Blues and Yeti mics are pretty good too. So
they're controversial. So yeah, they're very powerful and they're USB microphones. Yes. So it's kind of those things.
Yeah.
You know. So, but we can talk more about that under deep dive.
Yes.
Next up.
I see this and I've seen this and I'm really confused by it. The iPhone 12 coming out will not be packaged with a charger or earbuds.
Correct.
That just doesn't sound
correct. No. It's to make the box smaller.
What?
It's to make the packaging smaller, is what Apple's saying.
That's why they took away the microphone. That's
yep.
why they took away the microphones, to make the phones thinner.
Next up.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers.
Brain just... Psh.
Same day as the Shadowlands pre-patch dropped, we also got Minecraft Steve opened up in Smash, along with Alex, the zombie, and Enderman. are all basically skins of the same character. So that dropped at 9 p.m. Eastern last night. So if you have the Battle Pass 2, you are able to just download that right away. Otherwise, you can unlock the character for some nominal fee. So yeah, Minecraft Steve is in the game. So
Fun.
That is going to wrap up our quickfire news. So why don't we get right into our deep dive? All right, so let's start with Minecraft Steve. Because I got a chance, so I did take some time last night to sit down, play a few rounds as the Enderman, because I feel like that's the only option. Which, for those that don't know, if for some reason you have never played Minecraft over the past 10 years, 12 years, 15 years.
Gosh.
10
wow.
years.
10.
They are enemies that are... so they're monsters that are like humanoid monsters that come from the end, which is like one of the like final levels that you can get to. It's kind of like a Shadowfell like thing in Minecraft, to put it in D&D terms. It's like a very negative energy, dark, gloomy kind of place. Almost like a void type place. So these are like void humanoids that show up and they like phase in and out of places and teleport around the place. They just like wander around and move blocks. You know, they're not really hostile until you look at them, and if you lock eyes with them, they freak out and scream at you, and then proceed to try and beat the ever-loving daylights out of you.
Yep, they do.
So naturally, I had to play them. I had to play as that.
Yeah.
Very weird. You start the match with a crafting table.
Okay.
Your neutral special is you sit there and you like, punch trees or punch dirt to harvest materials that you can then use to augment your other abilities. If you use the neutral special at the crafting table, you consume materials to upgrade your existing stuff or to rebuild it. So like you start play with a sword, like a wooden sword, but you can then like upgrade it if you have iron or gold or diamond, and it'll deal more damage. The materials that you harvest depend on where you are in a stage and what stage you are in. So if you are on an island stage that's surrounded by water, you might just harvest sand.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're in like Hyrule Temple, you might just harvest stone and like metal. You can harvest redstone, which if you harvest redstone, gold, and like iron and stuff or whatever, it can augment the side special, which is the minecart, to make a powered minecart rail, which makes it more powerful and allows you to do extra stuff with it. So the down special is TNT block. So you just drop TNT and it'll stay there, and if people walk by it, it explodes. It also explodes after a certain time period. The up special is a glider. Is that like, I've played Minecraft. I haven't played it recently. That must be a recent thing that there's gliders now in the game. So
yeah, I don't remember gliders. So
yeah, apparently there's like hang gliders in the game now, and that's what this is based on.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll yeah.
And the various so the up smash is a lava block. You just like take a lava block and you just throw it up, and it burns people above you. And the down smash is you pour lava out of a bucket onto people.
Effective. It's very effective zombie management. So, I mean, I'm not really surprised on that one.
Yeah. As I said, you start play with a sword. Your sword can be destroyed, in which case you then just punch things. But it's like, because it's just Minecraft, excuse me, it doesn't have like custom animations specifically for Smash. It's so you're literally just going around going like, meh, like with your arm fully extended going like, meh.
Yes.
like going
Oh,
like you do in Minecraft.
Yes.
So it's more of
Yes.
like, you know, the weird Minecraft punch to
Yep.
punch
That's
people.
awesome. That's
And your range is
awesome.
not great. So,
I wouldn't expect it to be.
yeah, it's really weird.
It sounds
You know,
really
the final
weird.
smash is weird. It's, you know, there's like a big giant TNT plunger that like launches to the side, and if it hits people, it like flings them out of the stage and into a castle that is populated by creepers and zombies and cobwebs and TNT everywhere, which then explodes. They call it the boom house, apparently. So, yeah. And then your character pops up and like eats a steak. So, yeah. I think it would have been cool if like you also healed as part of the animation for eating a steak kind of a thing. I thought that would have been funny. That doesn't happen, but yeah, all in all, yeah, still kind of has that weird little bit of uncanny valley where they don't move like other Smash characters, like both in control feel or visually. So like they look and move very much like Minecraft characters. So there's still, it's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, that just
And
doesn't.
it's so bizarre, but I imagine it's going to be a lot of fun for folks.
Yeah, like I imagine it'll be fun, but I imagine like, because there's like competitive Smash. Like I genuinely wonder how well this. I wonder how well he will be able to actually be implemented into any kind of competitive Smash other than, or if he's just going to be more of a, nope, this is just for fun. You play him just for fun, for the lols, which is a totally legitimate reason to play.
You know, you say that, and I mean, there's some weird top meta contenders. Like Isabelle became like a top contender from what I understand, because of the fishing pole. And just because it has absurd reach, and so like that became a whole strategy. That is, by the way, so Steve and Co. also gets a fishing pole for grabbing. So unlike Isabelle, who has it as her side special, that is how you grab people. So you actually have a ranged grab, sort of like Samus does. And then once you've grabbed them, it rather than like holding on to them, you trap them in a fence. And can then throw them in whatever direction you choose.
Here we go. Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I don't know if I'm gonna play all that often as Minecraft Steve. There's a lot of characters on the roster now.
There's
so many characters.
Yep.
So, so yeah, I wanted to get that out of the way. Right. So just to talk a little bit about, I said I was going to talk more about the Blue Yeti.
Yes.
Just so because it's so powerful, it's often that you need the right setup to avoid picking up everything that's going on in your house. Because that is a known problem for Yeti microphones, is that they're a little too sensitive for the average podcaster.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a studio, sure, it's great. But yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind. Just because it's often advertised as like a great intro microphone, and it's like, well, probably not.
It's a great intro microphone if you already have the right setup for it.
Well, but then it's not an intro microphone.
And you're not really intro, yeah.
Yeah. It's it's often touted as like, you know, a great like first microphone in marketing kind of a thing. And it's like, well, I mean, I've gotten great use out of mine, but yeah, it takes a lot to get working. And I'm also pretty sure I broke mine too. Since the gain doesn't work past a certain point. So, yeah. And, like, actively shuts down the microphone. So.
So what is this, the unicorn? that you have?
The Unicorn is a show on CBS that Megan and I started watching.
I was very confused when I just saw The Unicorn in show notes, and I'm like, what is this?
So, it's basically a sitcom. But it's about so this dad, Wade, who has two girls that are like tween age. And basically it starts off with Wade's wife, Jill, has passed away. And so kind of dealing with the aftermath of that, and moving on. So it starts off, that he's trying to process his grief and everything like that or whatever. And he does so with the help of his, his friends in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And
it takes a village,
Kind of, yeah, very much kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of like Modern Family, where it's got multiple families stuff going on. But
you say Modern Family, and I think Full House.
But they don't all live together in the same house.
But still, like
it might seem that way because they're all hanging out together like all the time. But basically, so it's Wade moving forward with his life, and the girls moving forward with their life, with the help of their friends. It's very funny, and I always mention like a lot of the dialogue to me, and I say that with that caveat because I have been known to not have great taste in things. Seems awfully real. Like, it feels like they have real conversations, at least, like, I can see them being real people, even when they're being, like, a little ridiculous kind of a thing. So, it's like, there are moments on sitcoms when you kind of roll your eyes, because, like, it's like, that's done for comedic effect.
Whoever could have eaten this cake on the windowsill? Oh, was that made for somebody else? Johnny. That's real. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's like, no, that's not real.
Yeah. I mean, for all the flack, Big Bang Theory gets, is like, there's plenty of moments where it's like that. Where it's kind of over the top. In trying to be funny. But also, I mean, to use a less controversial example, stuff like a lot of Nickelodeon sitcoms that are beloved. So I'm sure folks are going to think of like Arkell or whatever. I'm going to go way back and say like Keenan and Kel. A lot of overblown comedy in that one, which made it great, but like, I don't know if a lot of it's very realistic. Whereas, this kind of, it has what feels like real situations. So yeah, I mean, we're watching it on Netflix. I think it's one season so far.
I might have to take a look at that tonight because it sounds really good.
Yeah. So it's got three families. So Wade's got two girls. Then I'm Forrest and Delia, who have one kid, and they're like kind of overprotective. Delia's like she's a mom. She's a bit of a helicopter mom because she's also a pediatrician. So she's also very much like you cannot have sugar. You have to have healthy snacks. Like, you have to eat kale chips and, stuff like that.
I mean, if you close your eyes and plug your nose, they
no.
You can pretend that they're potato chips, but no. Potato chips don't leave like little bits in your teeth. No.
And then there's Ben and Michelle, who have 4 kids. And it's just always chaos.
That's 7 kids in total.
Yes.
Between the 3 families.
Yep.
That's just a lot of kids.
It is.
Like, I love children. I genuinely love children. But when we have family get-togethers, when there's like all the littles, it's a lot. There's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But that's good for a comedy. That's what I will say.
And the name comes from when like his friends try and get Wade back to dating.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just we were watching that, and I threw it on there. I wanted to talk about it.
Cool.
So yeah, it's actually something out of CBS that I would recommend.
I mean, that is pretty high praise coming from you, Sean. So
Well, I say that, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Actually, yeah, CBS kind of actually has a lot of interesting stuff. So
CBS has some okay stuff. Yeah. But speaking of some pretty okay stuff too, what about Baldur's Gate 3?
Baldur's Gate 3. I played the entirety of the early access over the course of the weekend, kind of a thing. So, I gotta say, there were people. So I was saying this before we went live or whatever. There were people that said like, I spent 60 hours in this, and basically wrote like a negative review kind of a thing. And it's like, number one, how? Like, did you keep replaying the same stuff over and over again? Like, did you keep restarting? Because, I mean, even I kept restarting or whatever. So I don't know if it's because I played through Divinity and Divinity 2, Original Sin, because there are actual Divinity games as well.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's just like that I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm not searching every box because I know most of them are going to be empty. My use of, well, I'm going to go deeper. Oh, I found a waypoint. I'm going to skip like this entire camp full of enemies.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I don't want to get into spoilers. But just some of my thoughts are that it's, so number one, like it's very early access. So there's a lot of bugs. That's fine. It's the developers acknowledge that they are working on it. They want to use this as an opportunity to get feedback, how stuff feels, to find out what the bugs are, kind of a thing. I noticed like turn order kind of jumps around. So like it'll show you the turn order, but then like it might skip people and you have to manually go back and click them. Otherwise they'll lose their turn.
Okay.
Animal companions, not great. They like can't hit anything. So I don't know if they're actually applying scaling that's supposed to happen.
Yeah. Again, this is all, early access, so things are going to get worked out and
so one of the things that I know a lot of folks have been talking about is the fact that there is, so the way it works is, so picture Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2 throwing out action points, or you just get like one action point per turn, and that is your action, and they put the D&D sort of rule chassis onto that, so that attacking or using some kind of or casting a spell or using an ability, anything that would use your action in D&D uses up your one action point during the turn. You also have a bonus action point during the turn, so they have a lot of bonus actions. There's no dodge. So like normally that's a legitimate strategy in D&D, is if you can't reach something and you want to get there, you dodge so that you don't get hit. And you don't have that option, at least in the early access. One of the other unusual things is, so disengage is a bonus action that is also jumping. So,
interesting.
And I remember they said that's kind of partially due to some story stuff. And it's not that much of a spoiler because we talked about it last week or whatever, but so basically the story revolves around lithids, around mind flayers, and literally you start the game being infected with a mind flayer tadpole. So the reason why everybody can jump such long distances and everything is kind of due to that effect. At least that's the intention. So I know that has been a big complaint about everybody, is like that the fact that everybody can disengage and like jump these long distances as a bonus action in combat. They said devalues the rogue a little bit, since that's kind of a rogue thing. It's also kind of a monk thing, since you have to spend a key point in order to do that normally.
But being able to do that just because I
mean, I use that a lot though. So
I mean, I'm not saying it's not a useful thing. I'm just saying like that's something that has been it's been a class features for so long.
I think it's just I think it's something where with the fights that you have, is that folks are going to need to get used to the fact that when adapting the D&D rule set to a video game, you have to make concessions for working in a video game. Because in a typical D&D game, if you have a 4-player party that shows up to a combat with 20 opponents, you probably don't fight that combat, or you do whatever you can to avoid it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, that is kind of a common occurrence in this game. Or you fight vastly overpowered ones. And so the idea is, like, you need... In order to make sure that, like, the only thing... Like, that you're not just doing one thing every turn. Disengaging as a bonus action was a conscious choice by the developers in order to help you get out of combat. So, now granted, I mean, there's also times where in order to disengage, you would have to... The AI pathing would force you to move out of the threatened area in order to jump away. So that's a little bit of a tweak that needs to be made. But another complaint people have right now are the companions. I think a lot of people don't realize that the developers had said that they put in the quote-unquote bad guys for the companions. So all the ones that are in there are kind of on the sort of evil-ish side. I say that because they're...
Are we talking like Dr. Evil-ish, or are we talking like Megamind evil-ish?
Both.
Interesting.
Because they're more complicated. Like, they both will do the right things for wildly different reasons. And, like, sometimes, like, they're kind of mostly evil, but in the end, are they really?
Okay.
I mean, Dr. Evil does end up being evil. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched it. But, like,
yes, but I was wondering, is it, like, like, Dr. Evil's more of a silly evil? If that makes, like, I equate him with more of a silly evil versus Megamind, who gets the girl.
It's also, it's Forgotten Realms D&D.
Yeah.
So, hey, they're kind of silly.
They're kind of silly already.
There's currently 5 companions. And this isn't a spoiler because they're in the promotional artwork. Like, they show up on the loading screen as you get into the game. So one is Lae'zel. She is a Githyanki warrior. Is just stereotypical Githyanki. So she is opinionated. She's arrogant. Touts Githyanki supremacy. Is very single-minded on getting rid of this mind flare corruption. And so that is kind of where, like, she just sort of selfish, arrogant, like, doesn't care about what is happening to other people. So is on a quest at the exclusion of helping anybody else. There's another one, Shadowheart. She is a cleric. She is a cleric of a deity that I will not reveal because that's part of the story. But is meant to be a secret. So it's basically little cult vibes going on in there. But it's yeah. So I don't want to reveal too much because it's part of her story.
No, that's fine.
It's kind of a evil cult situation type thing. But it's kind of, without going too much.
I mean,
the same
thing could be said about many real world religious collectives here in this world.
Let's put it this way. It would be more like if so she doesn't have the same personality. But thinking about it in a different way, if Jester if basically so spoilers for so this will be spoilers for Critical Role fans that haven't gotten caught
critters.
Up. If the Traveler had turned out to actually be a bad guy, and like an awful, horrible being, that Jester found out that she was in like some kind of awful evil cult as opposed to just a chaos cult.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That it's a deity that is opposed by a lot of the other deities in the Forgotten Realms. And so, but there's often like from a certain point of view, or well, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, kind of a thing. So
like, this is what's you need to learn my story because you need to know this is why I am. This is why I'm like this.
Yeah. Yeah, but even then, like, she still wants you to help other people, kind of a thing. So, let's see, there's the vampire. It's just egotistical vampire.
Just a vampire. Just, your bread and butter vampire. Okay.
Kind of. Yeah, very egotistical, hoity-toity.
The fact that we have a bread and...
other people are beneath them.
The fact that we have a bread and butter vampire, and we're not saying, like... No, we mean base vampires, not sparkly Twilight ones, not...
bread and butter vampire is blood-sucking toast.
Yes.
It's toast with fangs. There's Will, who is kind of a fighter, swordsman person, very heroic, but is heavily implied from the loading screen artwork to have some kind of demonic dealings or devilish dealings. So the implication is sword-packed warlock of the fiend. And then there's Gale. Gale, not gag me with a spoon, Mrs. Henderson. Who seems to just be a very ambitious wizard that made poor choices and now has to live with them. Again,
these things happen.
I'm not entirely sure he is evil, because he also very much wants to help other people. Just also has a very strong self-preservation bent because of story reasons. Where it's not just I will do cowardly things to stay alive, so much as if I die, it's very bad for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hopefully there are more companions to kind of round out the roster. No word on if any classic Baldur's Gate companions are going to appear in the game. So no word on if say the legendary Minsk and Boo are going to show up.
If we get Minsk and Boo?
I don't know, because the thing is, all of the companions are bonded together by a common goal. And so if Minsk and Boo are in the game as if they get added as companions, that means that they also share a similar fate. And I don't know if Wizards wants to do that to them.
Fair.
It's unclear. So,
okay.
But yeah, no word. They only go up to Act 1 for the early access. So there's still, if it's like the other games, 3 more acts to get developed. Like 2 to 3 more acts to get developed. So
yeah. So they've got a little bit to think about if they want to do that.
Yeah. As far as character options in the game thus far, they do not have all of the options in the player's handbook yet. From what I understand, they will be adding those. But you can basically do dwarf, elf. Drow is separate from elf, which is a little odd. You can do Githyanki.
I've been trying.
You can do human, obviously. You can do tiefling.
Yes.
Halfling. And I want to say that's it. So no dragonborn, no gnomes.
Yeah. That sounds about right with the list that you told me earlier in the week.
Yeah. No half-orcs or orcs. So sadly.
Yeah, that was the other one. Mm-hmm.
So, but we gotta wait and see if they add those options. My hope is that they do, because that would be great.
Yeah.
So the character that I made was a Wood Elf Ranger, starting out.
Oh, gee, how could I ever have figured that out?
Well, I wanted to make my D&D character Courtney, but there's no lizard folk option.
I meant with the ranger.
Well, I wanted to see how, because the other thing was they said they wanted to work with Wizards on changes that are being made to the ranger to get those incorporated in the game.
Nice.
However, basically Tasha's will be coming out before the game's released. So we'll see those changes to the ranger. I didn't really see anything that was out of place. Like you could have told me that it was basically an adaptation of the PHB Ranger. So some of the options they had, like for favorite enemy, was like groups as opposed to pick a creature type. It might have been like Beast Hunter, which is, you hunt, monsters and natural beasts and stuff. So you get the bonus against beasts, not aberrations, monstrosities, possibly dragons and stuff like that. There was like Mage Hunter, which is basically you get bonuses for fighting against spellcasting enemies, which was neat. Bounty Hunter, which is you get proficiency in investigation, and bonuses for like tracking down humanoid prey. Kind of, tracking down humanoids that have skipped bail, basically.
I mean, more than humanoids skip bail.
Not really.
Really?
Not really.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, you're going to put a giant in jail, Courtney? You're going to put a dragon in jail?
I've seen ways that it's done.
I mean, you're gonna put constructs?
Yeah. That's when you just put them in a storage unit and pull out their batteries.
Yeah, but so constructs typically
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. They're yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, it's also, that's just the real world.
It's also D&D, but yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It's also each character can only have one summoned thing. So I can't remember what selection of options that I had, but basically I started out with being able to summon a familiar. So that was interesting. But then when I later got the ability to summon an animal companion, I couldn't have both. Which made me sad, because I wanted to have,
You can't have a menagerie just following you?
You would have to give those abilities to multiple characters. So every character can have one. This also means that for mages, you, as far as I know, you would not be able to summon a familiar and mage hand at the same time. So mage hand, the actual version of the spell creates a conjured hand that goes around and does stuff. It's not typically like telekinesis. So because it's two separate conjurations, you can only have one. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, the math makes sense, but
yeah, and I think that's a limitation from the Divinity engine. Because in past games, you could only have one summoned thing at a time per character. That was just a way to prevent you from summon stacking, which is fine. That's a thing I'm sure DMs around the globe would wish D&D would do. But, it's, that's a thing. So. All right. Are there any other questions that you might... Oh, also, there is multiplayer available. So,
nice.
Parties can go through. It's still a limit of 4 people to a party. But basically what you would do is you would have other players in your party and your other NPC companions would just wait at camp.
Oh, okay. All right.
I should actually touch on that a little bit because that's an interesting mechanic. So when you want to rest for the day, so there doesn't seem to be a day-night cycle, it's just when you are done for the day, there is a little campfire button, and that's to go to camp and take a long rest. So what you do is it basically teleports you to a different map where your camp is. And so number one, you have to be out of combat. But it takes you to your camp, and there are all of your little NPC companions. You can invite other people to your camp. You can talk to them. That's kind of where you advance NPC stories. There is kind of a stash for people that have played Diablo or Diablo-like games before. where you can store stuff. So when you pick up an item, you can say send to camp, and therefore it'll go to your stash, but you won't have to carry it around.
Nice.
And mess with your encumbrance.
Yeah.
With your weight limit. So, so yeah. So you have that there. And then what happens is when you finish the rest, it just brings you right back to where you were before. And it's the next day.
Yeah.
So typically that just relates to story stuff on how, like, depending on how many days have passed, certain events will happen. It's not, I don't think it's as involved as, say, like something like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
But it's, there is some level of advancement in there. Now, if you've got a party of people that don't really need long rest based abilities, like, say, a party of fighters, you could, in theory, just keep going and just try and run through as many encounters as you could in one day. Now, short rests is, I believe you can take one short rest per long rest. And what they do is they refresh short rest abilities, and I think they heal you up to full. But you can only take one. So
in order to take another short rest, you have to long rest in between.
Yeah, I think that's how the limit is set up.
Okay.
Which I kind of would have preferred if you could just do that. Like, if you could just take a short rest and, like, I don't know if it would set like a cooldown timer or something, because
short rest.
Because in theory is that if you spend an hour, you can take a short rest, and then if you do like another combat or action scene or something and use up resources, you could then spend another hour and take another short rest after that to refresh short rest abilities. Because that's kind of the appeal for things like the fighter, which refresh stuff after short rest, is that you can do multiple stuff throughout the day to refresh your stuff as long as you're spending that time. So yeah, I don't know. They also introduce like weapon skills. So everybody, based on what weapon you're using, will have a short rest based ability from your weapon. So like quarter staff users can like knock people down. Axe wielders can like cleave people. Sword wielders get like a precise strike. Ranged attackers get like a pinning shot that reduces enemy movement. So that's a neat little thing. That's separate from like the fighter stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. All in all,
it's been fun in early access. It sounds like it's got a good amount of
stuff. Yeah, it's definitely early access. So if you're not a fan of games that, I mean, there are times when it just breaks. So if you are not a fan of early access games that are definitely early access, hold off on it.
Yeah.
I would say, for folks, because this is a question that is constantly coming up, is if you are not a fan of Divinity, Original Sin 1 and 2, this is not the game for you. I'm going to flat out state
that. Good to know.
Just because it draws heavily from that system. It is turn-based. It is not like other Baldur's Gate games where it's real time and you can pause it to input commands.
I like turn-based.
I have to. I can't. I mean, you all saw me on that stream trying to play Baldur's Gate 1, and that was just a disaster. So, but yeah, I mean, it's got other little quirks, like food heals you, so that kind of reduces the importance of healing potions. Because you can carry around grilled pork ribs and do the same thing. They just weigh a lot more.
Yeah.
So, crafting is not yet implemented in the game. There is a panel for it.
So it'll eventually.
It will be in the game. That is a huge part of that engine. So, I'll be excited for that. I did not hit level 5, so I don't know how they handle action economy with extra attacks. So that is something to keep in mind. Because technically, it's when you use the attack action, you get multiple attacks that you can do. So I don't know if it will let you split them up like you normally can do, or if it just
Mhm.
auto defaults to attacking somebody like twice.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Cool.
or if it handles it like a multi-target type thing. So, I don't know.
Mhm.
There's also not all of the spells are implemented, so that may be another turnoff for people that want to play spellcasters. There is no shield spell in the game, which
At
is
all?
kind of an important spell. So,
Wow.
but you get Magic Missile, you get Scorching Ray. I would assume you get Fireball. Again, didn't hit level 5, so
Yeah.
I don't know. There's Speak with
Okay.
Animals. They use concentration a lot, so again, you can only have one concentration spell. Concentration gets broken, and that's quite sad. So, also, yeah, cantrips. So stuff uses saving throws or attack rolls. Just like in D&D, you generally want to favor attack rolls over saving throws because save-based spells are not great. Unless you really stack your DC. But yeah, generally, yeah, it hurts. It hurts when enemies are constantly saving against your cantrips. So, I'm just going to leave that there.
Mhm.
All right. I think I've talked enough about Baldur's Gate. But when it gets closer to release, or when it does release, I may look into doing some multiplayer streams with folks, possibly with Courtney and with Heather that we had on the podcast a couple weeks ago, that we might recreate our old D&D characters and play a multiplayer game that way. Alternatively, might do it with the Tales of Jamora crew, and recreate a bunch of our characters if we can, or backup characters, since Warforged are not going to be in the game. I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
Aasimar are probably not going to be in the game, so that rules out half the party. But
It does. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely might do some streams with the full game once it's released, because I think that would be fun to do a multiplayer campaign with that.
Mhm.
So now, do we want to do quest log?
Yeah, because I'm not as mad about the iPhone not coming with a charger, because it's just the charger block that it's not going to come with.
Right. Here's the thing,
though. It's still going to come with the cord.
The cord is
And
USB-C, Courtney.
I saw that, and I'm like, wait a second.
So if you have a USB-A block, it will only transfer power at USB-A speed and not USB-C speed.
Yeah.
Or it will only draw that much power. Because I know that was a big thing with Switch chargers, is that it had to make sure that you got the right one.
Yes, I will say this though, with everything moving to USB-C, for like a lot of Android phones and things like that, I'm not too terribly upset with them including a charger for that.
It means many iPhone users will have to buy a separate charging block. Because likely the ones that they've been using for a while are USB-A.
I'm also just a little upset that they're not including earbuds. Like, I'm still upset about that. Like, earbuds do not take that much space. But then again, I don't use the earbuds that my phone comes with. Like,
as I understand it, you will have to still use Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah, so, like, you should already have them if you've been doing it. So...
I have an iPhone 6. I still have a headphone jack.
Yeah. But if you want to use headphones, what I'm saying is if you want to use physical headphones, there are more comfortable ones out there that you're probably already using, and you already have the adapter if you are at the higher end. Or they're already Bluetooth and you're already using them.
I don't like Bluetooth headphones.
I don't either. I have, yeah. But then again, I don't. That's why I am an Android user. Because this is, yes, it's going to save all this carbon and everything, but it's not, that's not going to be really helpful.
Anyway, we're not talking about it because I'm mad. Because I'm
yeah,
mad.
I don't blame you.
We are due for phone upgrades, so this irritates me. That's why it's relevant for me. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Fair.
Let's do quest log. Courtney,
Yes.
you haven't updated your
I
quest
watched-
log.
I didn't because I've only done one thing. I watched the next episode of Erois.
Okay.
That is what I did.
I mean, you
this
did a
week.
thing. You had that on your list.
I did the thing, yes. So I just finished episode 77, so I'm getting to episode 78 probably tonight after this. I'll just pop that on. Because there was no Critical Role this week. And wasn't...
For clarification, this past week, there is...
Yes.
Yes,
this past
for
week.
audio listeners, you'll be probably listening to this on Thursday. There is Critical Role on this October 15th. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. This past week there was no Critical Role, so I didn't have anything to catch up on for that. But yes, I did, and I have been looking at some other podcasts that I would like to get into. So I'm starting the slow process of downloading those onto my iPod.
I will tell you, I have just finished the first episode of the Sentinels of the Multiverse series for Critical Hit. So I will say that if you are looking for sort of lore and role-playing, not that. It's kind of just like...
Good to know. I'm not a fan of long, drawn-out battle, like, unless something's actually largely going on inside of it.
It's kind of like... so it was described as Fate plus Powered by the Apocalypse is sort of the system of the game. So it's a lot more narrative than like D&D is. And it's got a lot less universal mechanics. But to me, it felt like listening to a bunch of people play Theater of the Mind, Sentinels of the Multiverse. Yeah. Like,
Sentinels,
I love Sentinels.
Is hard to follow. Sentinels, I love it. It's hard to follow when I'm playing it, and I can look at the cards.
Well, it's simpler because like you get one action on your turn, and like so you only do one thing. So it's things like the main host, Steven Schleicher, played Legacy. So it was like, all right, well, I'm gonna fly over to these spider bots, and I'm going to do an inspirational assault to motivate my team. So I'm going to use motivational charge. And like he rolls the dice. Well, that didn't work. So, I failed, but everybody gains a hit point. And then like, I'm going to pass it off to this person and they do their thing. It's like that. But it's very much, it's basically one long combat scenario.
Yeah, that's not, thank you for that. That is
I wanted to, and like
I very much enjoy the lore dumps. I enjoy the RP. I get bored during long fight scenes, long chase scenes, long dance numbers that don't have any. Like, I get bored during those. So I do when I rewatch old Critical Role, I watch the battles in double time. Not even time and a half, straight up double time.
Yeah. I'm going to try and listen to episode 2 and see if that changes.
Yeah.
I also don't know if it's because they were playing pre-gen characters as opposed to making their own, which is a thing that you can do. But, it was very much just a 2.5 hour fight scene. Which could
be great to get to start something off, but seeing if it's going to just stay that way. But so
I know I was thinking like, well, I don't know. This just seems like a different way to play Sentinels as opposed to like, this is like a full on role-playing game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, because I'm working on downloading a bunch of different podcasts and seeing if I can, my goal with catching up on Erois, and I'm only like 20 episodes or so behind. My goal, and I'm crossing my fingers on this one, is to be caught up by the end of the month.
Okay.
Which, to anybody who knows of my binging abilities,
we will. You know what? Well, that's the thing. Questlog is going to be the way we keep track of that, Courtney.
that is going to be my goal, is to get it by I will give you an update on the 28th, even though I will not be able to be doing podcasts that night. But I will give you an update. Probably
right.
I'll give you an update on the night of the 27th.
Okay.
So that everybody knows.
Yeah. All right.
But
so
that's really all I've gotten this week, though.
Okay.
But yeah.
As far as my list goes, I colored another comic.
Nice.
So, which is great, but it means that if I keep going at this rate, the book will be done like in a year and a half. So there's that. But I also completed finding all of the diglets in the lagoon area of the Isle of Armor. So I have like half the areas down at this point. I have like 5 areas down. I really wish there was a way to check that from the menu instead of having to go back to the Fields of Honor and checking that sign or finding a diglet, because I'm running around not knowing if I had one left or if I found them all.
Yeah,
and that's a very frustrating feeling.
I have a little notebook. I kept track. I had to just physically write it down and say how many did I need to find still, and I'd check in like periodically to make sure that I hadn't like missed one at the Fields of Honor board. But I definitely had to physically keep track of that myself when I was doing it.
Yeah,
because it is frustrating that
I would like the rewards better. So like you get Alolan Pokemon as rewards, which is great, but I already have them, like all of them. So, not so great for me.
It's not for you, Mr. Living Pokedex.
I know it's not for me.
But
it's
for
just
somebody like me,
it's just me. I'm going around just because I have a thing that I want to put on quest log. So I need small achievable tasks to give me a sense of accomplishment in my life.
I mean, there's worse things.
Sure. I did not get an item icon done, so I only got 2 out of 3 things done. This upcoming week is going to be coloring a comic or doing an item icon and then finding all the diglets in another section. I'm not going to do a third thing. It's just I've got so much going on right now with work and taking care of my son. I can't.
Hey, that is fair. That is absolutely fair.
I mean, it's also one of the things that I haven't been putting in quest log is logging in every day for Animal Crossing to buy candy, which I have been doing.
You're doing your dailies.
It's really, if by dailies you mean I log in, I buy candy, I buy whatever spooky thing is for sale in the shop, I water the pumpkins, I find the bottle recipe, and then I'm done. It's like 5 minutes. Yeah. Dailies for Warcraft is it takes 3 hours, and you have to do like
that's just
25 quests.
That's just too much. Nobody got time for that.
I mean, that was the life when raiding, because you needed to make that money, you needed to gather those resources, make that stuff for raid.
No, this is why I never got into WoW.
And then go to raid for like 4 hours.
This is why I never got into WoW. I can't. No.
Or if you were me and on the wait list, you would then like have the game open and hanging around and having Ventrilo open because Discord was not a thing yet. Waiting around to hear if you got called, but you would like watch TV or do homework or something or whatever.
Have it going in the background, yeah.
You would just be in game and like waiting and ready to jump in.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
I mean, basically, because there were limited spots, but like you often had extra people, so
yeah.
But you got credit for attending if you did that. So I was like,
so it's like going to school and shuffling through the classes, and in high school, like you get credit for being there. Whether you accomplish anything is sometimes different.
It's not really the same thing, but
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. All right. Well, that is a wrap, folks. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you want to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, you can check us out over at 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find comics, podcast streams, artwork, and more. If you want to help support content from 8-Bit Adventures, you can do so 3 ways. You can support us right here on Twitch by becoming a subscriber. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you get 1 free Twitch Prime subscription a month. If you would please consider using that subscription for this show, it would be greatly appreciated. As a reminder, you have to manually refresh that every month. So you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Patrons get things like early access to comics, behind-the-scenes content for Tales of Jamora, and a discount on merchandise. So the third way you can support 8-Bit Adventures is buying merch. You can find that over at shop.8bitadventures.com. We have t-shirts, hats, stickers, and more. So our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And we're out. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.
Bye, everybody.